Okay, let's kick off with something pretty striking. Think about the British cycling team. For ages, honestly, they were just not really contenders.
Yeah, kind of perennial underdogs, right?
Exactly. And then something changed. They started focusing on these tiny, like 1% improvements across the board.
Everything, wasn't it? It sounds almost obsessive when you list it out.
It does. Redesigning bike seats, wiping tires with alcohol for better grip. I mean, who thinks of that?
Heated overshoes, testing fabrics in wind tunnels, specific massage gels.
Even down to teaching proper hand washing to avoid illness, custom
Mhm.
pillows, painting the team truck white to spot dust easy.
Seems minuscule, right? Almost trivial.
You'd think so, but the results, just incredible. Suddenly they're winning world championships, stacks of Olympic and Paralympic golds, multiple Tour de France titles.
It's such a powerful example, and it perfectly sets up what we're diving into today. We're really digging into how these, well, seemingly tiny daily habits, the small stuff we do over and over,
Hmm.
how they compound, how they build up over time to create these really massive outcomes, sometimes good, sometimes, not so good.
And our main guide for this exploration is James Clear's book, Atomic Habits, or Esau in the original.
Right. And it's worth mentioning his own story, which he shares right at the start. It's quite something.
Oh yeah, the baseball bat incident in high school. It's brutal. Hit right in the face.
Yeah, the details are intense. Multiple facial fractures, brain swelling. He was in an induced coma.
Lost his sense of smell for a bit, apparently made his eye bulge out. Just a really, really tough recovery.
Totally. But what's key about his story and what he emphasizes is that his comeback, getting back into college athletics, his later success, it wasn't some single defining moment of glory.
No big overnight transformation.
Exactly. It was all about the small wins, the slow, steady grind of recovery, building one small habit on top of another. It really showed him the power of that consistency.
Which brings us to our mission for you today. We want to really pull out the core ideas from Clear's work, how these tiny atomic habits, as he calls them, lead to these big shifts.
And make it practical, right? Something you can actually use, something accessible that you can apply to whatever you're working towards.
Exactly, no matter your goals. So let's jump in. This astonishing power of tiny gains. We saw the cycling example. What's really going on there? What's the mechanism?
Well, it boils down to that 1% better every day concept. It almost sounds too small to matter, doesn't it?
Yeah, like what difference does 1% really make today?
But the math is where it gets wild. If you actually improve by just 1% each day for a year, you don't end up 3.65 times better.
Yeah.
You end up nearly 37 times better.
Wow, that's exponential.
It is, it's compounding.
Yeah.
But the flip side is also true. If you get 1% worse each day, well, you decline pretty dramatically down towards zero.
It's like compound interest, but for your life, your skills, your habits.
Precisely. The effects multiply. Just like money grows with interest, your habits grow stronger or weaker with repetition.
And I think that's why it's so easy to overlook these small changes, right? You don't see a huge difference after one day or even a week. So you think, this isn't working, and you slip back.
That lack of immediate feedback is a killer for motivation. It's human nature to want to see results quickly.
So if that slow progress makes us quit good habits, does that same slow pace let the bad ones creep in without us noticing?
Absolutely. It's the exact same principle working in reverse. One cigarette, one extra hour of TV, skipping one workout, it doesn't feel like a big deal in the moment.
Just this once.
We all say it. But those tiny 1% regressions, those small negative choices, they compound too. Over time, they lead you somewhere you didn't intend to go.
Clear uses that great analogy, the airplane flying from LA to New York.
Oh yeah, the slight course correction.
Right. If the nose is just off by, 3.5 degrees? Seems tiny at takeoff.
Barely noticeable.
But by the time you cross the country, you don't land in New York. You end up hundreds of miles away in Washington, D.C.
And our habits are like that rudder. Tiny shifts in our daily choices, consistently applied, steer us towards vastly different destinations in life.
So it's really more about the direction you're heading, your trajectory, than where you are right this second.
Exactly. Your current results, your bank balance, your weight, your knowledge, the clutter in your house, they're lagging indicators. They reflect the sum of your past habits.
Your net worth reflects financial habits. Weight reflects eating habits. Yeah, makes sense.
And it's crucial to remember this cuts both ways. Good habits compound positively. Bad habits compound negatively. Understanding that is like step one to taking control.
Okay, so we get the power of compounding, the 1% idea. But let's talk about that frustration when you're putting in the effort on a good habit, but Nothing seems to be happening, this plateau of latent potential.
Yes, this is such a critical idea because this is where most people give up. The book uses the ice cube analogy.
Right, heating it up.
Yeah. You take ice at, say, 25 degrees Fahrenheit, you heat it to 26, 27, 31 degrees. You're putting in energy, but visibly. Nothing's changing. It's still ice.
Still solid. Seems like wasted effort.
Until you hit 32 degrees. Just one more degree. And bam, it starts to melt. That breakthrough only happens after a period where the change was invisible, latent.
And Claire gives other examples, right? Like cancer growing undetected for maybe 80% of its life.
Or bamboo. It spends years, like 5 years, building this huge root system underground that you can't see.
And then suddenly shoots up 90 feet in just a few weeks.
Exactly. The visible result only comes after a long period of invisible groundwork.
So people quit new habits because they expect linear progress. They expect to see results right away. And when they hit that plateau, that flat part where effort doesn't seem to translate,
They get discouraged. They think, this isn't working for me, or I'm not cut out for this. They're stuck in what the book calls the valley of disappointment.
so if you're struggling, if you feel like you're pushing hard but not seeing progress, it's probably not that you lack ability.
More likely, you just haven't broken through that plateau yet. The work isn't wasted, it's accumulating, like the stonecutter.
Oh, the Jacob Riis quote. Yeah, love
Yeah.
that one.
Look at a stonecutter hammering away at his rock perhaps 100 times without as much as a crack showing in it.
But then the 101st blow splits it in two.
And I know it was not that last blow that did it, but all that had gone before. All those earlier, seemingly ineffective strikes were building up the potential for that final break.
It's a great perspective shift. You just got to keep hammering, keep showing up. Which kind of leads us into the next big idea, this focus on systems over goals.
Right. This one can feel a bit counterintuitive, too, because we're
Mhm.
so goal-oriented as a society.
Totally. Set smart goals, visualize the outcome.
But Clear argues, drawing on folks like Scott Adams, that if you really want better results, fitness, business success, less stress, whatever, you're better off focusing on the systems that lead to those results, rather than just the goals themselves.
Okay, let's break that down. What's the difference? Goal versus system.
So the goal is the outcome you want to achieve. Winning the championship, hitting $1 million in revenue, playing a specific piece of music perfectly.
The finish line.
Exactly. The system is the process you follow day in, day out. For the coach, it's recruitment, training drills, player development. For the entrepreneur, it's product testing, hiring practices, marketing outreach. For the musician, it's the practice schedule, how they tackle hard parts, getting feedback.
It's the how.
It's the how, consistently applied. And Clear poses this really interesting question. What if you ignored your goals entirely and just focused on improving your system every day? Would you still succeed?
And his answer is?
Pretty much, yeah. He uses that Bill Walsh quote, the legendary 49ers coach. The score takes care of itself.
Focus on the process, the execution, and the results will follow.
Right. If you commit to the system of continuous improvement, those 1% gains, the desired outcomes, tend to happen naturally as a result.
So what's wrong with being super goal-focused then? What are the downsides?
Well, one big thing is winners and losers often have the exact same goals.
Ah, good point. Every Olympian wants gold. Every job applicant wants the job.
Right. The British cyclists always wanted to win the Tour de France. That goal existed long before they implemented the system of marginal gains that actually got them there. The goal wasn't the differentiator.
Okay, what else?
Achieving a goal is often just a momentary change. Think about cleaning a messy room. That's the goal. You achieve it, great.
But if you don't change the habits that made it messy.
The system, exactly, it's just going to get messy again. You treated a symptom, but you didn't fix the underlying cause. Lasting change requires changing the system.
That makes sense. And goals can kind of mess with your happiness too, right? Like you postpone feeling good until you hit the target.
Yeah, it creates this either situation. Either I achieve the goal and I'm happy, or I don't and I'm a failure. You're constantly chasing this future state instead of enjoying the journey.
Whereas focusing on the system, on the process of getting better each day, that can be satisfying in itself.
Definitely. And goals can sometimes be weirdly disconnected from long-term progress, like the marathon runner who trains hard, runs the race.
And then stops running completely, the yo-yo effect.
Yeah, because the goal was the event, not the ongoing identity of being a runner. Systems are about continuous improvement, not just hitting milestones.
So the takeaway is really build good systems, focus on the process, and trust that the results will come.
And that helps us understand atomic habits better. They're not just small habits. They're small habits that are fundamental components, the atoms of a larger system.
Like atoms building molecules. These tiny habits build our overall progress.
Exactly. Small, fundamental, but incredibly powerful when they combine and compound.
Okay, this is all making sense, the power of small things, the focus on systems. But let's tackle the elephant in the room. Why is it often so damn hard to stick with good habits while bad ones seem to latch on so easily? We know routines matter, but the struggle is real.
It really is. And Clear suggests there are two main culprits for why changing habits is so difficult. First, we often try to change the wrong thing. Second, we try to change things in the wrong way. Let's dig into that first one, changing the wrong thing.
Okay. And he uses that onion analogy, right? The different layers of change.
Yeah, it's a helpful visual. Think of three layers. The outermost layer is changing your outcomes or your results.
Like losing weight, publishing the book, winning the championship. That's where most goals live.
Exactly. Then the middle layer is changing your process. This is about your habits and systems, implementing a new workout routine, decluttering your desk each day, starting a meditation practice. Most habit change focuses here.
And the core, the center of the onion.
That's changing your identity. This layer is about your beliefs, your self-image, your worldview, your judgments about yourself and others. It's who you believe you are.
Okay, results, process, identity.
Now, Clear argues all levels are useful, but the direction of change matters most. Most people start from the outside in. They focus on the result they want. I want to lose weight.
Which leads them to maybe change their process. I'll start dieting and exercising.
Right. But the most effective, most sustainable change, he argues, starts from the inside out. It starts with identity. It starts by focusing on who you wish to become.
Identity-based habits. Okay, give me an example. How does that look different in practice?
The classic one is quitting smoking. Someone using an outcome-based approach might say, I'm trying to quit smoking. They still kind of see themselves as a smoker who's fighting an urge.
Right, the identity is still smoker.
But someone using an identity-based approach would say, I'm not a smoker. Or even better, I'm a healthy person. See the shift? The behavior, not smoking, now flows naturally from the identity they're adopting.
That's a subtle but really powerful difference.
It is, because most people don't even consider identity change when they set out to improve. They focus on the what the goal, and
Yeah.
the how, the plan, but they neglect the underlying who.
And you can't really build lasting habits if they clash with your fundamental sense of self.
Exactly. Your actions need to align with your identity. If you want more money, but deep down you see yourself as someone who's bad with money or a spender, you're setting yourself up for internal conflict. It's hard to sustain behaviors that contradict who you believe you are.
There was that story in the book about Brian Clark, the entrepreneur who bit his nails.
Yeah, great example. He didn't just stop biting them through willpower. He started getting regular manicures.
Huh. So he started taking pride in how his nails looked.
Precisely. He shifted his identity to someone who takes care of their nails, someone with well-groomed hands. And that identity shift made stopping the biting habit much easier, almost automatic. It wasn't aligned with his new self-image anymore.
So the ultimate form of motivation isn't external rewards or willpower. It's when a habit becomes part of who you are.
That's the core idea. If you take pride in your muscles, you won't skip workouts. If you take pride in your knitting, you'll make time for it. If you see yourself as a reader, you'll read.
True behavior change is identity change. Motivation gets you started, identity keeps you going.
So the goal isn't just to read a book. It's to become a reader, not just run a marathon, but become a runner. Not just learn guitar, but become a musician.
And our actions constantly reinforce our identity, whether we realize it or not. Like the voting example, identifying as a voter makes you more likely to vote than just wanting to vote.
Yeah, it becomes part of how you see yourself. But this identity thing can be a double-edged sword too, can't it?
How so?
Well, it's great for building good habits. But if you cling too tightly to an old identity, it can block positive change. Think about those labels we give ourselves.
I'm not a morning person. I'm terrible with names. I'm just not disciplined.
Exactly. The more you repeat those stories, the more you dig yourself into that identity, making it harder to adopt habits that contradict it. Identity conflict is maybe the biggest barrier to change.
So you need to be willing to let go of parts of your identity that no longer serve you, to evolve.
Yeah, absolutely. Which raises the question, where does this identity come from in the first place? It's not fixed at birth.
Right. How do we build it?
According to Clear, your identity emerges primarily from your habits. Beliefs about yourself aren't innate. They're learned through experience. And your habits are the most immediate, tangible evidence of who you are.
Every time you perform a habit, you're kind of casting a vote for that identity.
Exactly. The word identity actually comes from Latin words, essentially meaning repeated beingness. Your identity is literally your repeated actions.
So if you go to the gym even when you don't feel like it, you cast a vote for, I am someone who doesn't miss workouts.
If you write one page every day, you cast a vote for I am a writer. If you practice patience with your kids, you cast a vote for I am a patient parent.
And the more votes you cast for a particular identity through your habits.
The more evidence you accumulate, and the stronger your belief in that identity becomes. Claire talks about how he became a writer simply by building the habit of publishing an article every Monday and Thursday. He didn't feel like a writer initially, but the repeated action provided the evidence.
So habits aren't just about the results they bring, they're literally shaping who you believe you are. They build self-trust.
Yeah. And of course, bad habits cast votes too for identities we probably don't want. But the key is you don't need unanimous votes. You just need a majority. You just need to consistently cast more votes for the desired identity.
New identities require new evidence. Consistent habits provide that evidence.
So, practically speaking, how do you intentionally use this to change? What's the process?
Clear lays out a simple two-step process. First, decide the type of person you want to be.
Get clear on the identity. What are your principles, your values? Who do you aspire to be?
Yeah, think about it. What kind of person gets the results you want? Who is someone who is fit? They're probably consistent. They prioritize health. Who is someone who writes a book? They're dedicated, reliable.
So you identify the qualities of the person who achieves the outcome.
Right. And then, step two, prove it to yourself with small wins. Use your habits to cast those votes, to gather evidence for that new identity.
Start small, make it achievable.
Exactly. Write one sentence, you're a writer. Do 5 push-ups, you're someone who exercises. Meditate for 1 minute, you're a meditator. Each action is evidence.
Like that friend of his who lost over 100 pounds. His guiding question was simple.
What would a healthy person do?
Right. In any given situation, choosing food, deciding whether to take the stairs, he asked that question and acted based on the identity he was building.
It creates this powerful feedback loop, doesn't it? Your habits shape your identity, and then your identity shapes your future habits.
And ideally, that loop is driven by your values and principles, by who you want to be, not just by chasing external results.
So really, identity change is the ultimate goal. It's the North Star for habit change. The real question isn't, what do I want, but who do I want to become?
And the amazing thing is, you have the power to change your beliefs about yourself. You do it through the small choices, the habits you cultivate day after day.
It's not just about achieving things, it's about becoming someone. You literally become your habits.
That's a profound takeaway.
So, just to kind of bring it all together, we've done this deep dive, drawing heavily from James Clear's Atomic Habits, and we've seen first just how incredibly powerful those tiny 1% improvements are when they compound over time.
That 37 times better figure really sticks with you.
It does. Then we looked at shifting focus from just setting goals to really building the underlying systems that drive progress, remembering that the score takes care of itself.
Getting the process right.
Exactly. And finally, maybe the deepest layer, understanding that powerful connection between our habits and our identity, realizing that true lasting change comes from focusing on who we want to become.
And then using our daily habits as votes, as evidence, to build that new identity, piece by piece.
It's not about some overnight transformation, but this gradual evolution driven by consistent action.
And knowing that our identity isn't set in stone, it's something we're actively shaping with every choice, every habit. It's about becoming, not just achieving.
So, here's a final thought for you to take away today. As you move through the rest of your day, just ask yourself, what's one tiny atomic habit I can do right now that casts a vote for the person I want to become?
Just one small action aligned with that desired identity.
It could be incredibly simple, but it's a start. And as we've seen, those small starts, when repeated, can lead to truly remarkable places. Keep focusing on your identity, build your systems, and trust the process.
That consistent effort, driven by who you want to be, that's where the real magic happens.